It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Today we're going to talk about HP. You know, there was a decision made in one of their class action lawsuits. We'll talk about that. Folks, this firmware, pushing out firmware and locking out supplies to end users is a little bit disturbing. But there's a lot of disturbing things about HP. I share a lot of those concerns that I have on a lot of videos. I have a whole content collection series around HP and all the content I put out there about HP. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to see this content in the imaging channels, blogs, or magazines. I mean, those folks, they're not going to touch any of this stuff. They'll talk about how Amplify is a great thing for the resellers and the end users. They'll make it sound like it's the greatest thing in the world. Don't know why they do that, but they do. But ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about the firmware updates that are causing havoc to end users. And I want to talk about some of the absolute nonsensical propaganda that I read about HP. It's just absurd. And it explains why I'm completely bearish on HP's future. I just don't see them as a going concern much longer. And I'm going to share today some of those reasons. So without any further ado, let me jump on the board here. The first thing I want to do is I want to pull up this slide. This comes right off of HP's website. It says HP Tech Takes. What is a firmware update? And HP is trying to explain to the end users what a firmware update is. And of course, they'll make it all about security. And there is some merit to firmware solving some security problems. But you'll notice the A is a lock. They turn that into a lock, a little fancy marketing. And folks, here's what I believe that lock needs to remind you of regarding HP firmware updates. It's going to lock out your non-OEM cartridge. As soon as the firmware gets pushed out, you got to ask yourself a question. Is this going to lock out the cartridge that I have in there? Because ladies and gentlemen, if HP doesn't sell the printer cartridges, does HP even have a business? They're a $50 billion business. $20 billion of that $50 billion comes out of their print business. Most of the profit for that company comes out of the toner and ink. Without the toner and ink profit, is that $50 billion business a going concern? And I think more investors need to start thinking about that and start looking at this print business that HP has, and then start thinking about some of the things HP is doing and some of their practices to the end users, and ask yourself, is this what they're going to have to do to maintain that profit margin? Holding customers hostage? So without any further ado, let me just pull up this next slide, and this is kind of how I put this. I wanted to give you a graphic that would kind of make you understand when you push out a firmware and you lock out a non-OEM cartridge, kind of what happens. And so I asked the question, is HP a green company? And I got to say no. In my mind, they're not. I believe that they mean green dollars. Don't mess with our toner and ink business because that's where our profit is. And without that, we can't really make it as a company. I mean, I'm sure that's what they're thinking there at HP. But here's what happens. So, let me get my Sharp Interactive board working here. So what happens is HP puts out this firmware. I call it the HP firmware hostage situation. Remember you got the ransomware come up on your machine, give us some money and we'll give you back your data. I think this is the same kind of thing when they push out a firmware that locks out a non-OEM cartridge. So they push out the firmware and they say, hey, that cartridge don't work, so give us some money. We'll get you a cartridge. You take that cartridge, put it in the machine, but first you got to take the one that's in there, the remanufactured, the non-OEM cartridge, and just go ahead and throw that one in the landfill or send it to us and maybe we'll do something with it. Folks, you see how nutty this is? You see how nutty this is? How is this green? How is it green making a customer take the cartridge that's in their printer right now out of it? You had to have a truck drive this new cartridge to them, right? It didn't get there by a drone, and even if it did, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It had to go through some shipping processes. We're using fuel and waste. We're pressuring the environment to ship out all these cartridges to all these printers that we disable through a firmware update, and then those end users have to take the cartridge out and throw it in some landfill or send it back to HP. Folks, how is that green? How is that solving any problems? The only problem that's solving? Well, it's solving this problem for HP. It gives them more money. And folks, the latest victim to this, I hear, is the HP 452, M452. HP M452 is the latest victim to this firmware fiasco. So if you had a non-OEM cartridge in the machine, firmware comes out, it doesn't work, all those end users across the world got to do what? Take them out and throw them in the trash, throw them in the landfill, send them back to HP? Get trucks all over the roads delivered them HP toner? There's got to be a better way, HP. Look, I realize that all OEMs want their end users to use their toner. But I think the thing that everybody forgets is the desired outcome that all the OEMs sold those end users. When end users buy a print device, their desired outcome is a printed page. It's not the device, it's not the supply. Their desired outcome is a printed page. And when you get in the way of that desired outcome, that's not good customer service. When you force a customer that hit print not to be able to print before they give you some money so you can send them another cartridge so they can take this one out of the machine and they can throw it in the landfill, that is not about being green. That's about holding somebody hostage. I mean, folks, let's be real about it. Now let's talk about some of the propaganda that I see out there in the press that just blows my mind. I think we should talk about it. So without further ado, I'm going to cross off this screen and we're going to the next one. So before I get into some really crazy stuff that I've read, let's talk about this lawsuit thing. So actionable intelligence, you've all heard of that blog. I strongly suggest you go there because they're not afraid to talk about things that are going on with HP. You're not going to see this stuff in our industry analysts and from our industry's imaging channels, blogs out there. You're not going to see this kind of stuff. Very, very rarely. They'll be telling you how great Amplify is that everybody should sign up for. But let me just read you the top sentence of this. And like I said, you can go and read the whole thing for yourself. This fall, HP Inc. got some bad news in a would-be class action that claims the printer maker violates various computer fraud, false advertising, and unfair competition laws by using printer firmware updates to prevent the use of third-party toner cartridges in certain laser jet models. Folks, this is not good news. Fraud? Marketing fraud? Remember when I talked about the desired outcome of those end users? They just wanted a printed page. They didn't want to be held hostage by an OEM that pushed out a firmware. And a whole lot of people are pretty upset about it. So this class action lawsuit, I guess, is going to go on. Let's go to this next thing. So this was an article that I found out there that I just found so, actually, it's borderline hysterical. I mean, it's if you're drinking milk or something, you'll probably spew it all over the place when you read this because it's just so comical at best. It's a comedy. It's like a comedy. They should make a play out of this. And this particular article was by Heather Clancy, and it was an interview with Christoph Schnell. Now, I'm not blaming Heather Clancy for writing the article. I think it's great to get this kind of stuff out there. I just think that investors and the people that are so excited about HP really need to read this kind of stuff and ask some better questions. Because the stuff I'm reading, it's just pure insanity. So, Christoph Schnell, we know he's the chief commercial officer for HP. By the way, he sold $5 million worth of stock in HP last month. $5 million. So there's one thing that I guess me and Christoph Schnell agree on, that the price of HP stock's not going to go up anytime soon. I think he's pretty much, $5 million. I'm out. Anyway, folks, let's just talk about some of the things in this article. So I'm going to have to read some of this and just kind of go along with me because it's so insane. Tucked into HP Inc.'s Substantial Impact Report published in May is a factoid: more climate-conscious businesses should monitor and report on the amount of sales revenue that is directly attributed to the environmental, social, and governance consideration. Folks, what they're saying is, over at HP, we monitor the dollar amount of business we get because we care about the environment. We monitor the amount of money we get because we care about the environment. I just can't imagine these sales calls. I mean, what do? You ask the customer, do you care about the environment? The customer says, yes, okay, they just bought a $1,000 printer from us, so we can attribute $1,000 to a customer that cares about the environment. What the hell? Do you care about the environment? What's the customer going to say? No, I hope the whole world just blows up and everybody on the planet is wiped out through massive, terrible climate change. That's what I'm hoping for. You see how crazy and silly that sounds? But what does this report really mean? This is nonsense. This is something that HP can share in a press release, kind of like their nonsensical subscription publications. We've sold X amount of subscriptions, but they never give you any details about any of them, just all hype, all excitement. Everybody gets all excited about it. The bottom line is, guess what, folks at HP? And guess what, all the investors at HP? Print is declining, and every day that printer's going to print less than it did the day before. And HP's going to do everything they can to make sure that that OEM toner goes in that printer. Even if they make the end users mad. Even if the end users sue them. That is not a good business model for sustainability. Is it? In the case of HP, the 2020 fiscal year was the second consecutive year in which the company generated more than $1 billion in commercial businesses tied directly to those considerations. So they're out there toting this. We did over $1 billion in business because people care about the environment and all our social issues. Look, here's the reality, HP. Your social issues that you care about, those are permissions to show up. It's 2022, right? In a couple of months. Of course you better be conscious about the environment. Of course you better have social awareness. Those are permissions to show up. That's not anything fantastic to brag about. It's permissions to show up. But the way you talk about yourself and the way you say you've done $1 billion worth of business attributed to those things, it's just pure nonsense. And I cannot believe that people listen to that shit and believe it. So I'm sorry I got a little upset there because this stuff is just so insane. So let's go to this next thing. This is really interesting. So listen to this line. HP's move to disclose those numbers is unique within the tech industry. I got to get my Sharp Interactive board working here because I want to underline that sentence and then give my opinion of it. It says, HP's move to disclose those numbers is unique within the tech industry. Of course it is, because no other technology company would buy into that pure nonsense. Seriously. I'm waiting for the advertisement to come from Microsoft. People buy our software because we care about people. We care about social issues. We can contribute X billions of dollars to the sale because we care about things. This is just so crazy. And I can't believe that people buy into this nonsense. When you're trying to be this nonsensical, seriously, folks, when you do press releases that are absolutely about nothing, and we see those in our own imaging channel, right? We see these nonsensical, crazy-ass press releases that don't mean anything. And we get all excited, we get all this hype around it. That's what HP is doing. They put out these nonsensical press releases that are just silly nonsense to try to get people probably not to think about the fact that they're pushing out firmware to lock people out of their cartridges that are in their printer. Let's go to the next slide. So I want to talk about this because I have a solution for HP to kind of help them out with this talk track. The company's long-standing sales channel program was also updated to reinforce HP's more intentional focus on sustainability. An optional training initiative launched in February, HP Amplify Impact. Okay, we all know how I feel about the Amplify agreement. Remember that video I did not too long ago where I talked about the Amplify audits and all the crazy crap around Amplify? Remember Bob Goldberg, the lawyer for the BTA, came on the end of the day with Ray and told all the resellers, that giving away your data to a major OEM is pretty scary stuff. He considered it a threat to your business. Well, anyway, here you are, a reseller. You're deciding whether or not you want to, sign up with Amplify and give HP all your data. You're trying to figure out, do I really want to take HP on as an OEM and resell their products? And then you start thinking, what are the reasons? Well, they're always in class action lawsuits. That's not a good reason. They force people to use their toner by pushing out firmwares and making them take the toner that's in the machine out, throw it in a landfill, and put theirs in. That's not a good thing for customer service. They ignore the customer's desired outcome of a printed page. I don't know why I should sign up with HP. Oh, that's right. They have this program where they teach me how to ask people if they care about the environment. When the people say yes, whatever I sell them, I can contribute to the fact that I'm a company that sells things to people based on their caring about the environment. This is so insane, I can't even say it without laughing almost. But yet, that's exactly what HP does every day. They talk about this nonsense that gets people all excited. So let me go down here to this last paragraph, and I'm going to bring this video to an end, but I do have a math solution I put together to help HP out. The goal is to get at least half of the partners in the HP Amplify channel program enrolled in the Amplify Impact program by 2025. So they're trying to get, half of their resellers to enroll in this thing at least, right? So they could teach people how to go ask customers if they care about the environment before they get the check from the customer, so they can contribute it to people caring about the environment. Oh my God, it's insane. As of mid-July, more than 1,500 had opted into the initiative. Thankfully, that's a really low number, so I have hope that resellers aren't buying into this pure horse shit. But here it goes. Schnell said HP counts more than 250,000 channel partners worldwide. So 1,500, well, let's just say 1,500 people were, hey, I'll sign up. Sounds cool. I can ask a question. Anyway, 250,000 channel partners. they want to sign up on this, amplify impact, ask the right questions so we contribute more of our sales to the fact that people like the environment. Can you imagine that press release? Well, here's what I'm thinking, folks. So let me pull up my last slide. I did some math, and I call it the real green truth. So let's talk about this. If HP's 250,000 channel partners average 20 remanufactured cartridges a year, that would divert 5 million printer cartridges from landfills. Oh my gosh, that would be a great headline. We've allowed our customers to use remanufactured cartridges, and we diverted 25 million cartridges from landfills. 5 million cartridges from landfills. What's the number, HP? I mean, the bigger the number, the better that sounds, and that's about real environmental change, right? Let's be honest. Let's be realistic. I mean, that could easily hit 25 million. That's only 100 cartridges. 100 cartridges a year per 250,000 resellers, right? Wouldn't that be a great headline? Folks, here's what I really believe. HP spent more than $11 billion buying back their own stock instead of reinventing their company. They spent $11 billion since 2019 buying back their own stock instead of reinventing their company. And if they don't sell their own toner and they don't sell their own ink, they're going to lose so much profit, the shareholders are going to run, and their stock's going to crash. That's the reality, in my mind. And I think you need to really think about this. I believe HP defines sustainability is whether or not they'll continue as a going concern. That's how they define it. They don't define it by the environment. They all get together and say, if we don't sell our toner and our ink, we don't really have anything else to offer our shareholders, our investors. It's all about our toner and ink. We need to figure out how to force people to use our supplies. We need to figure out how to force people to use our supplies. Let's get real creative with firmware updates. Let's do everything we got to do. And every time we do these things, what they really do, folks, is they forget the desired outcome of the end user they sold the printer to was to get a printed page. When you lock them out and you force them to spend some money to get another cartridge, to have it shipped to them, to put it in the machine, to take the one out of the machine because you did a firmware update in the middle of the night, that's not customer service. That's temporarily serving investors. But I would say very, very temporarily. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.